Hello dear sinceres. So apologies for this very late video on the new moon in Leo. This new moon already happened on the 16th of August 2023 at 9:37 a.m. UK time. Believe it or not, it's like the third time I'm doing this recording. So unfortunately I couldn't really do this on time. I had some complications with my equipment. We will have an overview of this new moon, followed by a brief explanation of what it means to have a moon in Leo, a deeper look at the cosmic weather with mundane predictions, and at the end, unfortunately, I didn't have time to do the mini predictions for each sign and the archetype card reading that I did for the last few times, but definitely will try to do this on the next one, and hopefully you will like still what this video will unpack for at least the meaning of what it is Leo sign and some of the potential things that can happen under this cosmic weather. So this new moon is at 23 degrees and 16 minutes, which places the new moon in Aries Decan and Taurus Dwad. So it's fire and earth that will be influencing very much the psychology of this new moon. The Cans and Dwads confer a psychological layer to the objects that occupy certain signs. It will be in conjunction with Venus retrogrades, carrying Uranus in Taurus, trining the North Node in Aries, that is also conjuncting with asteroid Aries and trining Chiron. But more on that a bit later. This conjunction with Venus in Leo with the new moon gives a certain romantic undertone, because Leo is the zodiacal sign of flirting and the early stages of initial romance. And nowadays it can also mean sexual or erotic intimacy in and outside a committed relationship. So it talks, because Venus is very much the sexual planet, about love and romance. Being in Leo, she becomes even more kind of into romance and love and self-esteem as well, very much talking about self-esteem, because Leo is one of the zodiacal signs that has most self-esteem and self-confidence, and a sense of being proud of oneself. So what does Leo mean? What is the zodiacal sign of Leo? So if you have a strong Leo in your chart, or you feel like you have a strong Leo influence in who you are, you will probably enjoy what I will say next, because most of the time people have this really huge misconception of Leos being all just about being vain and arrogant and thinking they're the best in the world. And there's always this very negative kind of description for most of the time about Leos. And it's something that is also reflected what we see in society. But I don't want to digress too much. So Leo is the sign at the apex of summer for the North Hemisphere, when people are in celebration and holiday mood, enjoying life, taking a break from work, and parents devoting time to their children. It's also the time when we have the sun coming just after the moon ruling Cancer period, the only time when these zodiacal signs of these two planets, sun and moon, also called illuminaries, because they are the ones that offer light to the earth, are exerting their influence in the zodiacal year procession. So if we pay attention to this, basically the only period that we have the sun and the moon ruling as zodiacal sign is in the summer, really, starting with the summer solstice and then followed by Leo. So Cancer starts that period, moon is ruling Cancer, and then we go to Leo where the sun is ruling. And the summer period when Leo is ruling is usually when we achieve the highest temperatures in the northern hemisphere. Leo is being ruled by the sun, and this is pointing towards life. the giver of life, because without the sun, there wouldn't be any life on Earth. We couldn't have life. And when people are looking for life, and astronomers are looking for life outside, they always try to check the suns, because the sun is the source of life. And it's also very connected to sex or eroticism, and in the sense as well, because it gives life. It gives life in orary astrology. For example, we look at the 5th house, which is sun-ruled house, to check details about the baby. And it's also packed with energy, vitality, with joy, celebration, because in summertime people feel like enjoying life. And this is as well calling to a time when most of us met when we were children. Because as children, we have that energy of running around, exploring the world, playing, imagining all sorts of adventures, feeling a joy of life, and that the imagination has no limits. It's a period that most of us remember as having a lot of freedom and not being so tied to adult responsibilities. But as we move further along the zodiac, towards Libra, towards Virgo, Scorpio, we get to move as well towards more maturation. Basically, this time period when you are children is like a summer of life. And then as we grow up, we kind of start leaving that behind, and we don't have that same kind of openness and wonder that most children have when we reach a certain level of adulthood. And that's also because as we move forward, we find signs and planets that brings us this kind of sense of maturity and take us away from this neverland of Peter Pan. Children are also the beings that are closest to the soul, because they just reincarnated, and they still embody the soul consciousness, for which the sun is very much connected to as well in astrology. The sun has this connotation of having been worshipped in the past as a god, sun god, not only because it's the giver of life, of warmth, of everything really that we have, and he generates nature on this planet. Without photosynthesis, without the sun, there wouldn't be much of a nature going on. So there is this awareness of this divine energy that the sun has, that the sun contains. And so Leo, being the only sun-ruled planet in astrology, we call sun a planet, Leo is the embodiment of this joie de vivre, that childlike aspect of life, a celebration of life with vivid imagination that, like children, likes to play characters and make stories more juicy, that likes to go on fantastic adventures, where, of course, the children end up being the heroes who save the world and the planet and the universe. And much like children, the story will revolve very much around them. The universe somehow revolves around the children. And there is this search for what makes life interesting, fascinating, fun, pleasurable, delicious, a celebration, the state of wonder and honest. And this is why, as well, a Leo sign is very much about drama, about theater, about playing, acting, being on stage. And of course, if we put it together with Neptune, Neptune being a planet that also alludes to the divine, but is more of a transcendental divine, a divine that is beyond, that is more enigmatic and mysterious. If we put the sun, the meaning of the sun in this Neptune, we have what we call as movies and cinema. And of course, behind the cinema and the screen is very much the movies and acting and series and things that involve actors and playing and dramas. So And so this is very much about acting, being on stage, the stage of life, to play the hero that always wins and ends up being the main character of the story. And this very, also is still connected a little bit with Neptune, this celebrity, this display of glamour, of beauty, of a perfection that's almost godlike, that is almost beyond life. And is this desire to have what life has best to offer, and us being this kind of descendants of the divine energy, of the divine force, by being looking the best that we can look and being the best that we can be. And from a more spiritual point of view is the celebration of the soul, celebrating incarnation. And if those who have died and came back to tell the story, and there's so many nowadays that you can access through the internet and YouTube, or those who had pre-birth experiences, if they are correct, then the other side of this earthly life, what we experience, is only a very essential soul state of being. On earth, we become individualized units of consciousness, experience of uniqueness that is to play a role that we come to do on earth. And it's this drama of having an incarnated life and the roles we get to be lifetime after lifetime, no matter how much of an old soul we may be. When we are born anew on this planet, we bring as children that fresh energy from the spiritual world, and children always have this sense of wonder, newness, of not knowing, of discovering and being open to discover all that life has to offer. And one sentence from the Bible that I really felt connects very much with this and with Leo's is that it says, you cannot enter the kingdom of heaven unless you are like children. There is this often misunderstood idea of Leos as being egocentric and arrogant. I mean, that is actually accurate if we look at their shadow side. Yes, they can be quite arrogant, they can think themselves as the center of the universe, very special, all of this. But what most people don't understand is that the shadow is always a produce of some kind of object or solidification of matter in front of light. If you have a source of light and you put an opaque object or some kind of object that has some kind of opacity, then you are going to see a shadow. You are going to see that there is some kind of darkness that is produced through that mixture of having a material thing and putting in front of a source of light. And this is connected to the duality of the reality that we live, and any solid you put in front of the sun will create the shadow. And so the side of Leo that very much feels like the center of the universe is also because of this archetypical child of the sun that knows what life is about and that life is meant to be lived, that remembers what a miracle life is, and like the sun, wants to spread this life around everywhere they go. Children are the center of the universe and feel so. The other archetype of Leo is the king, of course, because the king of the jungle or the lion king, and coming from this memory of royalty of the soul, of divinity, of being birthed from divinity. And children have this memory. They have this remembrance that they are children of the divine, that they come from the divine. And before children have to go into Virgo and then into Libra and then finally reach Scorpio and then lose all of this kind of joy and happiness that is so characteristic of the summer and Leo, with the horrors of Scorpio, which, by the way, is a sign that is squaring Leo. And we can see how there is this conflict between signs when there's certain signs square other signs. And so here you are forced to grow up. You're initiated into a passage to solid adulthood, the comprehension that there is such a thing as evil and there is such a thing as death. And Leos are the children as well that Jesus spoke about, that unless you are like them, you cannot go into the kingdom of heaven, you cannot enter it. Heaven is where the sun God is, the memory humans hold internally, the giver of light and life. The sun reminds us of God. Without it, there is no life. And as the soul journeys through life, the inner child is always there. The soul is always there. So Leos are usually a fixed sign modality. And this is also connected to this ever bright sun we encountered. The next morning and the next day and the next day is always there. Yes, it moves, but it always comes back. And in these youthful beings, always reminding us that Neverland is a place we can always go back to within ourselves. That the soul is the one that gets to play all the parts of life in this world. It gets to play the Peter Pan, the Lost Boys, Tinkerbell, Hook. It's just a part. It's just a play. Life is just a play. Why is the sun the planet that rules the sign that represents royalty? Because the true mission and purpose of a king is to ensure the maintenance of life in the realm, is to represent God on earth and to be his channeler. That brings the divine energy to the realm. And no other cosmic object like the sun, and we call planet the sun in astrology, could do it just as well. So Leos maintain this inner childlike memory that life is meant to be lived, and the memory of being sons and daughters of the highest authority, the divine authority that gives life. And they feel their role is to channel that life onto the world, whether the best way is by playing a part, doing a drama play, telling a story, or reminding people that they too are royalty through their magnificent self-confidence and faith in themselves. And that is because they still remember who they are. They still have not lost that memory. And they are just opened to life, to wonder, to explore. They don't have these complexes or, oh, I'm so bad, oh, I'm so this, oh, I'm so that. That's something that we get by interacting with the world, with this world, and people who put us down, and all these kind of things that kind of robs us of joy and of life, really. And where the shadow of Leos comes alive is when the divine is no longer taken into account, when Leos forget their source, when Leos forget their divine origin. Then they become like the fallen angels. When Leos start to think themselves to be the center of the universe with no memory of their divine eternal child, making it superficial, just about the ego, this false sense of self that thinks to be completely separate from the divine and the sole source of power. A narcissistic entitlement. They don't channel the divine any longer. They don't even remember God. Instead, they think they can replace him. This is where the shadow of Leo comes along, and this is when Leos can really become this arrogant, egocentric, self-centered, selfish, very dark, narcissistic people. So this is just a little bit on Leo. I thought to make it a little bit of justice to show the beautiful side of Leos that we don't hear so much about. It's always what I tend to hear out there is, oh, they're so egoic and the arrogance and thinking too much of themselves. But we live in a world where we suffer from self-esteem. We try to kind of put these things of body positivity and this and that and the other, but we don't remember the essence core of who we are. And this is what causes the lack of self-esteem. We cannot love what we don't know. And if we don't know who we are, how can we love ourselves? How can we love what we don't know we are? And so Leos, they kind of bring this remembrance of divinity, of our source, because it's all about having this joy of life, having this desire to just expand and shine and just be out there. And also Leos, they are this remembrance that is so unashamedly reminding us to love, to value ourselves, to believe in ourselves, to be true to our hearts and be true to our souls. Because Leo actually rules the heart. And she reminds us as well to fly in the wings of imagination and creativity. And so Leos in their essence reminds us of who we are, like art, when it takes us to the sublime experiences, calling us to the soul and in the land of those who have forgotten who they are, those who have their inner eye, those that have their essential self awake, those who know who they are the true kings and queens. So there is so much to say on Leos, like for example, the individualization of the soul consciousness on this planet. But if you want to hear more on Leos and of course other signs, if you have another sign, make sure you subscribe below to my channel, as I'll be making many more videos on this, and that way you will be up to date when I put a video out, if you also press the little bell on the side. So let's go to some reflections, predictions on what this new moon is bringing us about. So we had a conjunction of the new moon with Venus retrograde. Leo is very much about romance, and so is Venus. This might seem to indicate that a new love can be around the corner, but just having this Venus retrograde is a little bit of a danger, because it can indicate that the lover that suddenly showed up, and probably from someone you met a long time ago, or the relationship might change direction once Venus goes direct. It's likely that some old lovers will come knocking on the door, or drop a hi out of nowhere, like, hello, I'm here, let's date, let's start a romance today, right this second, you know. But the same surprising way that they will come, the same surprising way they will go. This is because Uranus is squaring Venus and the new moon. When Uranus is squaring Venus, he will have this erratic behavior, especially in terms of love, is like suddenly you're here and suddenly you're not here. So there's also apparently a square from Jupiter to Venus and the new moon, causing us to make romance and stories a little bit more than they are, maybe to augment them and exaggerate them a little bit. Or we can give a little bit too much love, or get a little bit too romantic. But along with this conjunction of the new moon and Venus retrograde, we have Black Moon Lilith also conjuncting, and Black Moon Lilith appeals and talks about our sense, our dark side. It talks about, its mythology is about Lilith being the first wife of Adam in the Bible, and she's seen in a negative way because she saw herself as an equal to men, to Adam, and did not want to obey him, and he complained to God, I'm not going to say, but he complained to God, and God, of course, took his side, and depending on who edited this version of the Bible, right? And told her off, and she kind of like said, you know what, I'm going to go my own way. So she kind of got deleted a little bit from the Bible when Eve came along. And she's also considered the serpent that later tempted Eve to eat the forbidden fruit. And in astrology, she carries the side of us that tempts us, that is our dark side, that is more connected to our vices and our inner demons. Is like that little inner demon that tells you while you are on a diet, oh, let's have some ice cream. Or when you trying to quit smoking. Oh, just one. Come on, let's just have one. It's that little little demon that hides behind the negative emotions we can experience sometimes that we try to pretend are not there, and tempts us towards having actions and attitudes that are really just this demon sitting on one of the shoulders. And because of this conjunction, this new moon can also carry a certain archetype of Persephone, because Black Moon Lilith is this dark side, Venus is this goddess of love, and the moon kind of brings that innocence along, and is like the moon is the mother playing with Venus. Persephone loses her bit of her innocence once she gets kidnapped to the underworld. My prediction is that this can bring us a sense of temptation with these sudden events and people that pop up suddenly. It could be a test for us to see if old lessons have been learned. Something new can come, but also something falsely new can also pop up with this orchestra of Lilith new moon. Venus retrograde and also Uranus square. And because Venus is also about money, self-esteem, possession, self-image, this can also be some of the themes that we might feel a bit of a temptation towards the darker side. There is a trine of the new moon to Aries, the dwarf planet Aries, in Aries that is conjunct with the North Node and Chiron. Humanity is currently going through a great deal of pain and hurting, and we see it through nature, but also through hidden powerful hands that try to influence events towards their agenda. Another reading I see in this is that the pain we are going through will actually aid humanity in the path that humanity is taken. There is discord and suffering, things that are very connected to the dwarf planet Aries, but this is also triggering deep wounds, asking to be healed with this Chiron conjunction to the North Node and Aries. And at the same time, there's an opposition to the South Node, and the South Node is conjuncting an asteroid called Haumea, and this asteroid represents the Earth goddess of Hawaii. Now, if you've been paying attention to the news, you know why I'm mentioning this. It's not an asteroid I speak a lot about, but in this case, I felt it was relevant because we had all these fires of Hawaii being burned up, and having a North Node in Aries, it is connected to fires and to natural disasters, to volcano eruptions, to heat waves, to droughts, to hurricanes as well. We actually had Hurricane Katrina the last time when North Node was in Aries, the sign of Aries. So we have been listening from the news. Some people say that this is all about climate change, but some people say reports have been coming out of people saying that actually there's been flashes of light just before the fires started. Some speculating that this might actually be an energy weapon attack that caused this to happen. So the South Node points to humanity's karmic points where we have exceeded the focus of our energy and attention, and tells us, the South Node tells us, hey, you need to pay more attention to the North Node. You need to move towards that way. And for me, this means that we are being very passive in certain things. We are kind of feeling impotent about certain things in the world and in our personal lives and the life of the world we are living in. And Aries North Node is telling humanity it's time to take a stand, it's time to say no, to be assertive, to go for what you believe in, especially with North Node conjunction to Aries. Go for what you believe in, fight for what you believe in, do what's right. Don't just let yourself be exploited and abused by some kind of partnership or entity that is not allowing you to thrive and to grow and be yourself. And this is what the North Node in Aries, part of it, is saying to humanity, is time for people to follow their own way. And having a square to Pluto, it's in Capricorn, we have this struggle with the governments, with authorities in the world that are not really helping with this finding our true selves. Uranus is trining Mars and Mercury in Pallas in Virgo, which are conjuncting these three planets, these three objects. And so we also may see certain heroes that might spring out of nowhere, that we might hear about them in the media, even though they are shy or not interested in fame or visibility. I love looking at astrology and see the phenomena that the dance of the planets and stars brings. One such example is the new song that gathered millions of views on YouTube in 5 days called Rich Man of the North of Richmond, which is a reflection of the current American but also global political climate. The opposition of artistic Neptune to these three planets is showing how this song was perfect for the timing that it has come about, because Neptune is all this artistic planet that is very much connected to music, and we have a singer-songwriter that is kind of being this hero that is so much the North Node in Aries, and Mars in Virgo, that he's very simple. He's a very simple person, but he wrote this song that really resonates with so many people around the world, that reflects the modern struggles of people, where people can't buy a home. There's all this inflation, the prices are up the roof, and there's as much attempt from authorities to collect as much data, corporations, authorities, to collect as much data from the individual people as possible. And right now, I don't know if you remember Edward Snowden, he revealed to us that, the NSA for Americans were trying to spy on people, not just in America, but even around the world. But we've reached a point, we are so beyond what Edward Snowden even told us about. We are so far gone that, our data is just gone. And this is very much as well telling us about the video that I have not yet done about the North Node shifting into Aries this year a few weeks ago. Now it's time for people to go their own way and to find what works for them. This is very much because of the loss of trust that authorities have the best interest of humans, of people in mind. I hope you have enjoyed what I've shared with you about this new moon, as well as about Leos. But if you enjoyed this video, please remember to press like below. Make sure you subscribe to my channel if you liked it, because I'll be doing more things. And it really helps me with the algorithms if you do press like, if you do subscribe, if you share it with your friends and make comments. And if you want to make sure you don't miss out on my next video, press the bell below as well. You can also visit me in my website at cynthiasincere.com. I have lots of different readings that I offer there, and you can check them out. And they're very interesting. There's not many astrologers doing these kind of readings, and you can pick and choose what year is your favorite and help yourself improve your own life and have more of this kind of joyful celebration that is to be a Leo. I'll see you next time. May the cosmos and the stars be with you.